Hey, John from Mighty here, and I'm here to talk about a really cool block that our team has made. This is a transition block. And what this block is intended to do is to help break up your sections of content that have these harder edges utilizing background colors and help make the transition between these sections within your lesson a little smoother. So in the past, the recommendation has been to use images that you've created either in Photoshop or Figma, and then you upload those using the labeled graphic hack that our team has talked about before, or you could use like a spacer block with background images. There's lots of different ways to achieve it, but unfortunately, all of those ways require you to leave the tool you love, Rise, and go to another tool to build those. And maybe you don't necessarily have the skill set to do that or the license and the other tools to do this. So then you have to go and tap someone else's shoulder on your team in order for them to build you a graphic, where really it should be just a simple click. So our team has made the transition block to be just that. If you go ahead and add the transition block, you'll see automatically you're given a really smooth transition between your sections. Let's dive into some of the settings. So in here, you're given tons of options. Right out of the gate, you can choose different types of transitions that you may want to achieve. But we'll first start with the shape transition type. In here, you'll see tons of different presets available to you. And these presets are just a quick way for you to automatically get a transition that you'll most likely want. But from there, let's say you want to fine tune a little bit of this transition. You can expand the custom settings tab, and this will give you all sorts of different options in order for you to make the best transition for what you're trying to achieve. So in here, we've got more of a sharp style. So we can change the roundness of these to be a little softer triangles as opposed to more of a hard edge triangle. The amplitude would change the depth of your transition. So you can kind of make it more of a flat transition or more of a wider, deeper transition. And then wavelength is the amount of distance between each of the peaks within your transition that you've got. So in here, we can make them a little bit larger and kind of give them more of a flow versus more of like a tight, rigid transition style. The other fun thing that you can do is you can decide if you want this to be responsive or not by turning on this checkbox. So first, let's just look at what it does with the responsiveness off. You'll notice that as you change your screen size, the transition stays with whatever width it's got set at. But if you turn on the responsive, what this will do is it will switch from wavelength to frequency and then allows you to just choose how many peaks end up existing within your transition. And as you change your browser width, those peaks travel with you. Another thing that you'll notice is immediately when adding the transition block, it inherited the colors from the previous block and the next block that you've got available to you. So as an example, if I were to move this transition block down and it were to live between the white and the blue, you'll notice it automatically adjusts to utilizing this bluer background with the white top. If you need to adjust your colors, you can always turn off the inherit color background and then change automatically your top and bottom color. But we would always suggest using inherit background because it'll automatically adjust as you make background changes. Next, let's talk about the line type. The line type is a mirror of all of the same shape styles, but it is strictly just a line that we introduce inside of your transition. So in here, you can create all these different transitions. You can decide the thickness of your transition. You can determine if it's going to be more of a smaller transition to match your content width, or if you do want to go full width. You can add just your standard line across, like the divider block would be, and all sorts of different things, very similar to how the shape works. The last would be the image, and the image transition is intended to be the replacement for the labeled graphic hack. You no longer need to add a labeled graphic to your course and then remove all the labels and make it responsive full width. Instead, you can just reach for the transition image block. And if you've got a custom image you have created in Photoshop or Figma, you just go ahead and upload that, and it will maintain your heights that you've got set on your image. Next, let's talk about our favorite feature with the transition block. This is the ability to bleed a transition over top of any block using background images. So let's show an example of this. Let's first remove our existing transition block, and let's add in a statement block. Once your statement block is added, let's add a background image. And then once you have your background image on any block, all you need to do is add a transition block above it or below it, and it will automatically adjust the background image of that block to bleed into your transition, giving you this really cool effect that allows your transition block to inherit the background image. We really hope you enjoy this new transition block. In here, there's a lot of cool features that we haven't touched on yet, and we love to see examples of different transitions that you've created.